Hello and welcome to a very special edition of the No Nay Never podcast, because this week we're taking you on a trip down memory lane. Let me ask you a question. Do you remember where you were on Valentine's Day in the year 2000? Because I do. I was on my way home from having dinner with some friends when my phone pinged with a text from my best friend. Now, this is a girl who hated football and she just did not understand it. I think I'd once taken her to Turf Moor, and despite not having a clue what was going on, she declared that her favourite player was Dean West, which was purely because they shared a surname. So you can imagine I fully expected the words that I read on that text message to be a wind-up. "Oh my God, you've signed Ian Wright," she claimed. Yeah, sure, funny. But it wasn't a joke. Stan Ternent had made what was perhaps the most incredible signing in the club's history. Ian Wright, legendary gooner, promising media star, England player for God's sake. He was now a Burnley player. The atmosphere around the town was electric. Shirt sales rocketed, everyone had 33 Wright on the back of them. And in a brilliantly savvy commercial move, the club launched the half-season ticket. So when Ian made his debut at Turf Moor against Wigan, it was a sellout. I honestly thought the noise was going to lift the roof off. Now, it seemed only destiny that the Clarets would seal promotion that year, and we've never looked back. So here, on its 20th anniversary, we sat down with the legend himself and asked him all about his time at Burnley Football Club, what Stan's Friday court was actually like, and just how bad the Gawthorpe mud was. Please enjoy.
Ian,
yes.
I think it's fair to say that your signing came as quite a shock to many. Burnley fans in particular. How on earth did that move come about? Talk us through it.
I started the season at West Ham. And I wasn't really getting on with Harry. You know what I mean? He for some reason he was just being Harry. I had a bad. My knee weren't right. I felt a clunk in it after a training game, and I was telling him. But I think they had an FA Cup game. And I don't want to digress too much, but they had an FA Cup game. I said, "Listen, my knee ain't right." And since then we fell out. And then 2 weeks later, I went on loan to Nottingham Forest. Went there. I was there for about 3 weeks, and then Henrik Larsson broke his leg. And then, John Barnes was manager of Celtic. And then, I went there and it was just a disaster. And I remember my mate, Mitchell Thomas, is my best mate. We knew each other from like 1981 and we used to speak a lot. And I think Stan just spoke to him one day and just said, "Listen, what's happening with Ian? He's not happy there and, he wants to come back." And at the time, Millwall wanted me to go there. Theo Pafitis wanted me to go back to Millwall because they knew that I had a soft spot for Millwall. But then once Stan got involved, who was really integral in my development, early days in Palace to promotion from Palace. Once he said he wants me to come, I just said, "Yeah, okay, I'll come." It was literally, I don't know. I said to Mitchell, "Yeah, speak to Stan. Yeah, speak to Stan." And by Wednesday, it was done. I said, "Yeah, I'll come. Yeah, no problem."
That's amazing. It just came out of a massive bolt out of the blue for us, I think.
I didn't realise how much of a bolt out of the blue it was. Obviously, there's a lot of people around when I got there, but it's only the other day, I met, spoke to a lot of people, and they were saying they were in school and they couldn't believe that some people left school. And
it was huge.
I was in primary school, and I remember my dad ringing me up, like, "Have you heard that we signed Ian Wright?"
Yeah.
"No, we haven't." "No, we have not." And I remember checking it. I think we were on teletext at the time, to be fair.
Oh,
and it came up, and I'm like, "My God, we have. He's not having me on."
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. Now, if we fast forward, I guess, to modern day big news signings, I think the famous Sean Dyche story is that he made Joey Barton an omelette to seal that deal to get it there. No famous cooking stories from Stan? Did he have to persuade you to come?
To be honest, no. Once Stan's one of those male figures in my life that once he kind of like gets you in a room, you're not really going to leave until he gets his way. He's somebody that I had a lot of a love for. He was really good for me, really helped my game. Coming in as late as I did, he showed me a lot of things as a centre forward that I should be doing without actually curtailing my natural ability to want to take people on and try things. But like I used to cause havoc at his house. You know, he was, because like Stan can go from just 0 to 0 in 10, especially when you see him in the dressing room, but never with me. I remember, you know, there's some of the time I used to actually go to his house on purpose because he used to love truffles. He used to buy them truffle chocolates. He used to love those. And then I remember once I went in and I just bit half of every single one of them, put them back in to the box and everything. And then I remember it's like Danny and Chris, obviously, you know, the tragedy happened there. But I remember they phoned me and they said that their dad had a massive family meeting because he was absolutely beside himself with anger because someone had eaten half his truffle. When he found out it was me, he said, "Oh, it's okay." And that's what the boys used to do at Burnley. They used to say that I'm the son of Stan, I could do no wrong. I remember when he used to say no tackling, I used to still tackle.
Yes.
I used to still tackle, and then he wouldn't say anything to me. I remember one time Ronnie Jepson tackled someone in the same game, and Stan went, F, he said, I said no effing tackling. He said, right, he's just been tackling. He told him to F off into the dressing room.
Excellent. I think just picking up on the very quick point, you mentioned Mitchell Thomas is one of your best mates, if not your best mate, and he was obviously quite integral to your move. Is he probably the main reason? Would Burnley have been on your radar without Mitchell Thomas, do you think?
Well, yeah, it wouldn't have been so much on my radar simply because it was just, but I knew Stan was there. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I knew Mitchell was there, and then because we're so close, Mitchell, it was brilliant. The fact that you know, we as best mates, you know, both of us coming towards the end of it at Burnley, and then we had the success we had with arguably, I would say, one of the best bunch of guys I've spent time with. You know, playing with guys at that level of the game I was playing with, but all good players and nice people and great lads. It was one of the funniest times I had, especially when we used to do the Friday court. The court on a Friday. It was so funny because you get in trouble for everything. You know, you get in trouble for everything. If you had a wee without asking somebody, you know what I mean, no one would say anything to you. And then in Friday court, they you know what I mean, they'd mention it, you know. Lenny John Rose would say something, or Paul Cook would say something, or someone would say something if you went to the shower without your slippers on. And then Stan would sit there and he says, Ian, you've been accused of you know, leaving your top and not wearing your slippers to shower. How'd you plead? I say, well, I plead guilty on that one. I remember I can't go into the one what I've done where I've done a whole dialogue of doing my own defence, and in the end I got charged being guilty for it. But it was one of the best ways of building like camaraderie and bond in the dressing room I've ever had.
Some good. Sorry,
go on. What was the punishments for the guilty?
No, when he was just fined money, yeah. Okay. And that's what would happen with that is that some people got really irate about it. Got really irate about being found guilty and having to pay the fine and stuff like that. But it was once it was done, it was done. It was absolutely brilliant. Never seen it done before or after. Never heard of anyone doing it after. But it was so good because all during the week you see people do stuff, and then Stan would say, any business, any, and then someone say, yep, Ian Wright was swearing at such and such at the time. I said, I didn't swear, I wasn't swearing. And then they said, okay, do you want to defend your case? You say, yes, I do want to defend my case. And then you try and defend your case, and then it goes to everybody, and then you find out if you're guilty or not, if you're guilty or not guilty. Not many people got a not guilty.
From my understanding, these punishments are still going ahead now. They are. This is still happening today. Yeah.
I think it's very much a Burnley thing. I think even generation after generation, we still manage to find a way to get that camaraderie at Burnley and that closeness. Yeah. And I think often because of the size of the squad we have to work with, that's fundamental. And Daesh is the same. We used to, like Glenn Little, we used to just, like, every time we'd try to report him for just talking he just talks so much.
Yeah. I remember that, to be fair, because sometimes I go into Gawthorpe and he'd just be chatting and chatting.
He's just a wheeler dealer. He's just, you know what I mean? He's like Del Boy.
Yeah. You had a great squad of players around that time.
Yeah, definitely. Some absolute legends like Glenn, like you said, you just mentioned. That brings it on nicely, actually. Do you still speak to any of the lads?
Well, to be honest, yeah, because obviously Tranmere,
Yeah.
You know, our manager at Tranmere. What's our manager at Tranmere?
Mickey Mellon.
Yeah, Mickey Mellon.
Yeah.
Mickey Mellon, Paul Cook.
Yeah.
Speaks all the time. Steve Davis is in touch, you know, on the WhatsApp. You know, and in respect of everybody else, you know, Ronnie Jepson, everybody, you just
see him about.
Yeah. You just see people about, but it was for me, you know, as tough as it was when I got there. I didn't realise how tough it was going to be, the actual football, and obviously people were, you know, once you were playing against them, they were trying 3-4 times as hard.
Yeah, of course.
To stop you. You know, I remember our first games against Wigan, and you know what I mean. I remember they had a player. I think his name was Michael Jackson, and you know, for the whole game, he was just saying things about he can't believe he's playing against me, and you know what I mean. He's just, you know, kind of almost. He wasn't, but like there's people who'd kick you in certain games, and they're like, sorry. You know what I mean? It's really weird, but like it was strange because I found it very tough to play. It was an eye opener for me, and that's why I said to Stan, I probably can't start these games.
Yeah.
I need to maybe come up with 20 minutes. I could not get to the level to the pace of it, you know, until, you know what I mean. Once I started to read and see what was happening. Yeah. So it was better for me because it's almost like I was off the bench, and I just watched the defenders. Just watch what they do, and see what they were doing, and then I say, Stan, just give me 20 minutes, and he done it. Let
everyone else tire them out.
Absolutely, and then come on and nick the goal against nick the goal against, like the first one against Gillingham, I remember. But like that's what I said to him, and it wasn't, I wasn't being disrespectful to the league. It's just that where I was at the stage I was with the couple of injuries that I was carrying with my ankle and stuff, it was just a bit too much for me.
Yeah, it's still the same now, isn't it? Championship is a different animal.
It's a massive thing now.
You managed to get 4 goals though. I think you came 11 appearances off the bench and things like that. So how do you rate like your time at Burnley in terms of like the success that you had in terms of goals and obviously the promotion?
Well, I think all the goals, when people talk about all the goals, they meant something. They helped in the end. And when you see our we needed to. I think we drew at Torquay. No, we beat Torquay. Glenn Little scored a great goal. Was it Torquay or was it Scunthorpe? Scunthorpe. It was Scunthorpe.
That was a promotion goal.
Yeah, it was Scunthorpe. We got to a point where, so we had to beat them, and someone else had to.
Gillingham.
To lose.
I think Wrexham had to beat Gillingham.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, and we had to. We were all at the turf on a big watching on a big.
Was you?
I was there. I weren't at school.
They all went to the whole one side.
Wow, must have been amazing. But it was what I was pleased about is that in training, you know what I mean, mainly used to do the training sessions. We used to talk about finishing with the guys and everything. And you know, with me, I wasn't really fussed about the not scoring at the time that I was. For some reason, it just didn't bother me. We were playing well. We was doing okay. And I remember when I did come on against Gillingham and scored, you know, you just knew, you kind of felt, I just felt like it was going to happen. I think I scored against, it might have been Reading. I'm not sure if it was Reading. Alan Pardew, I know Alan Pardew was absolutely, because Alan Pardew wanted me to go to Reading in that same time once he found out I was leaving Celtic. But I was pleased with all the goals because they all meant something. They were all quite...
Well, they did. They got us promoted. I think if you do the maths and you work out the games where your goals either got us a point instead of 1 or 3 instead of 1, one instead of none or 3 instead of 1, we wouldn't have got promoted without your goals.
So, I always make a joke and say, what's it called? Burnley's success now is simply because of my goal against Gillingham.
We'll let you have that one.
But it was, I don't know, the guys... You almost felt like the guys were a little bit like, oh gosh, I hope he can score. Because it's almost like they were embarrassed, and they were so not embarrassed for me, but they just felt kind of sorry for me. I wasn't scoring, but it didn't bother me as much as like people might have thought, because there was a lot of people talking about he's not scored yet. But like it wasn't something that anyone was worried about. And then once he scored, and you know what Stan was always just, he says, I know you'll come for me when it's time for you to come for me. And you know, I didn't know, but he knew, so it happened.
But like you said then, though, the people were paying a lot of attention to you on the pitch. So just your mere presence obviously opened up chances for you, Glenn Littles, to score that screamer. But we talked about the management style of Cernan with what you said about the courtroom, etc. So it was a little robust, to say the least, with his old school things. Was working under him. How would you prepare for games under Stan?
It was very meticulous. You know what I mean? There was a lot of like set pieces, and the way they played and everything like that. It was very, very good. I remember there was one time when Can't remember. I can't remember who we were playing, but Gordon Armstrong as well. I was still in touch with Gordon as well. Every now and then he texts. And I remember there was a time where he picked the 11, and the people that weren't involved with the 11, because you had to, it was very like, you're going to be doing this and we make sure we do this. And so the people who weren't involved, you had to go away. And I remember when he said that, I think he said, Gordon's not involved this one, I wasn't involved that one. And then Gordon said something like, effing hell, I thought we was all pissing in the same pot, right? But he kind of said it. He said it when he was walking away. And the thing with Stan would be like that. He went like that. What did you say, Gordon? And I thought that Gordon was just gonna. He wasn't gonna say anything. I thought, don't say anything because I know what he's like. And he said, no, nothing, Gaff. I just thought, we're all pissing in the same pot. And he told him, I've never seen a manager send so many people off the training ground to get. He went, fuck off, get him back. Fuck off, back. And that was the same time when Ronnie Jepson was tackling in training because he didn't want tackling on the Friday, obviously. Yeah. And like I done a tackle, and then no one said anything. So Ronnie Jepson done the tackle. By this time, he'd already sent Gordon Armstrong because it was a long way from the pitch to get back to the actual place. Yeah. So he was all the way up there, and then he dug Ronnie Jepson out as well for tackling. He told him to F off as well. Go on, F off with your mate. So you see them both up there walking off, but it was at no stage was it not funny for me. It just felt like fun. I felt like I was in a Kes film. You know what I mean? I felt like it was just always fun. Everybody's funny. Jeppo was funny. And Stan, like I say, when it came to the games, because Steve Coppell was the manager when he was at Palace, some of the times I saw him get angry. I remember one time he got angry with Mark Bright because Mark Bright questioned one of these training sessions. We was doing something, and if you started off and if you stand past you the ball and it bounced off you, he'd stop it straight away and say, stop, do it properly, bam. So you can't just get a bad touch and go, oh, come here, and then start. He would stop it. And I remember he'd done that to Mark Bright. Mark Bright said something. And at the time, obviously, Mark was high. He was very senior in the dressing room. And he said something to Stan. Stan said something, and then Stan walked off training pitch. I think Mark got in trouble for it from Steve Coppell and that. And then Stan talked to everybody and said he's not having that. And, that's not the way professionals should speak to a coach and stuff like that. But with him, in respects of getting things right, that he gave me that from a very early stage. He said that no stage in training when you're never ever miss the target when you're in training. This is what training's for. He instilled a lot of stuff like that in you. And like I say, going back to your question about the preparation, it was as good as like when I was at Arsenal with George Graham or with Wenger. It was meticulous to the right to the core.
So that's really interesting, isn't it? Because I genuinely wouldn't have anticipated that. But there's a few players you mentioned there that have gone on to be managers and coaches. Did that never entice you with?
Something, I missed my opportunities because I went towards television, and it's funny because Stan wanted me to stay for that next year, whether it was just to stay and be amongst it, and I think he wanted me to be involved in the coaching side of it as well. But like there was a call for television, and at the time, I thought, okay, that's the route I'm taking, because at the time I was doing a television show.
I remember that. I remember that television show.
Yeah, Friday Nights All Right.
Show.
Yeah.
And I watched it the day you signed or the week you signed, and the guy who introduced it said Burnley's newest signing.
What is going on?
We were never mentioned on TV.
No, never.
12-year-old.
Yeah, and it was. Sorry, what was I saying? I can't remember. What was my train of thought? I lost it.
Whether you're going into coaching.
Right, yeah, and so I missed it, and I regret it. I regret that because every now and then, like, I'll go and see my mate Lee Johnson. I'll pop into Arsenal. You know what I mean? I'll go and see my mate Carl Robinson at Oxford, and when he was at MK Dons, just to be amongst it again. And it's something that I do like. I would not have been able to deal with the emotions that football give you, whether you win or lose or draw, or when your own fans, you see your own fans, they get angry with you, and then they start realising when you get to that stage where, and it will come, where they don't want you there no more. It's very difficult, and I think like the emotional side of me and the fact that I'm very instinctive and off the cuff would have been too much for me to be a manager. I wouldn't have been able to do it.
Yeah, it falls on your head, doesn't it? Essentially.
Yeah, I would not have been able to cope with being a manager.
Yeah, it's pretty honest to be able to reflect that on yourself and realise what that
Yeah, I
was.
know that for a fact.
Yeah. Can I just pick up very quickly on the Gawthorpe point? You were talking about having to go ages. I think we all remember the old Gawthorpe ground where you had to drive down. What on earth, coming from the calibre that you came to and the career you'd had, what on earth did you think that first day you turned up at Gawthorpe?
Nah, man, it was fine. It was fine. It was almost like a brilliant reality check, because you can imagine like Arsenal's training ground.
Yeah.
You know, before the West Ham, you got, when I went from Arsenal's to West Ham's training ground, it was a little bit of like, whoa, you'd expect it to be a Premier League. It was going to be a lot better. It wasn't great. It wasn't like, you're thinking, wow, you'd have thought it was going to be a lot better facilities. And obviously when I went to Burnley, it was literally like some of the mud and everything was all around the place and everything. It was like a Sunday, you know, a wet Sunday morning kind of like facility place where, you know, you walk in.
Like temporary buildings.
It was, yeah. It was like that, and it wasn't something that bothered me, simply because I'd come from that, and you know, it was quite fitting that I was ending up in the same kind of way. But like I say, Stan said he wanted me to come there because he's got a great bunch of lads, and he thinks that with me in and around, and just that we might be able to get promotion this year. That was the only thing that I was thinking about, that we could do that. But the facilities and everything that happened was brilliant, because you could do stuff where I could just slide around. We're doing slidey tackle, just do slide things and mess around. We've done a lot of messing around because there's a lot of mud and water around the place. And this is why everybody had to wear flip-flops, because of the amount of mud and stuff on the floor. It wasn't Arsenal, but it wasn't terrible. It wasn't bad. One sec, Roscoe, that kettle's going to probably make a lot of noise. Yeah, but it's fine, because like it's fine. Like. No, we do it after. Yeah, because that kettle will just make some noise.
It's quite all right. No. See, this is what happens with live podcasts.
Yeah.
We get coffee breaks halfway through.
Yeah, it's fine, man.
No, you're all right. Don't worry. Have you? I don't know if you've had the opportunity yet. Have you seen Burnley's new training ground at Barfield?
No, I've not. I've only heard of it. I've only heard about it.
A long way away from the mud from Gawthorpe, for sure.
A long way away. It's actually.
I enjoyed the Gawthorpe at the end. It was quite a weird way, because I went right full circle and came back to where it was, and it's finished with success of going up. But like there was nothing about it when I went in on a daily basis, you know, because he let me train for like 3, maybe 4 days some of the time. Sometimes you stay up longer. And I remember I used to ride a bike as well a lot in and around there. And I had a nice little Mini. Yeah. Stan didn't want me to have. He said, you shouldn't be driving a Mini. You know, it looks bad on us. I said, no, man, this is perfect. This is perfect to be driving around. And it was nice, the town, and kids used to come around the house. You know, some of the times me and Mitchell would be in the house, you know, and the kids would come around the house. It was a nice time. It was just a real, I don't know how to put it. It just felt real. Like I say, it felt like first time I watched Kes, the buildings, the houses, and you go up hills and, you know, round it. It was brilliant to be around.
Yeah, you mentioned you went full circle. Obviously, you had a fantastic career. But where does that promotion rank for you in your career?
Well, it's success, so it's up there with everything else, because, you know, like my first success really was the promotion with Palace, which I'll never forget. Then you go to Arsenal, you win things and everything, but when you win something or when you achieve something, it's no difference just because of the magnitude of it. Like the Premier League, winning with Burnley in that moment when you found out, my feeling was exactly the same as winning the Premier League, because it's success. You know what I mean? You know how happy people are, and you know, looking around the dressing room and seeing how happy people were. We went on an unbelievable trip at the end of that season, which, like I said, it was a different culture at the time, and you know, everybody bought golf clubs, but I don't know what for. It was one of the best trips I'd ever been on in respect of watching guys have a good time.
I guess the perfect question now is, tell us more about that trip. What
I'm so glad you asked that. Like, don't stop.
It was just like, you know, the fun and when we went out, and it was, you know, it was different being with the Burnley guys, because when we went out, you weren't mobbed by people. Yeah. You know, when you went away with Arsenal, it was, you know, you had to have people around. So it was like normal blokes. You could just be in and around. And when you're like that, obviously people are less inhibited, and they just drank and just went crazy, man.
I dread to think that
It's
squad
really,
back then.
really good.
Proper lads all over
Paul
that,
Cook
right?
and Mickey Mellon. I think I saw, because Stan just let us off the leash. He really had me over there, literally on a daily basis, asking me to stay. But like, my mind was already made up. But like watching Paul Cook and Mickey Mellon, because I think Mickey Mellon was sharing a room with me and Mitchell. He stayed. I've never seen anybody as plastered as even Paul Cook were on that trip. It was brilliant to see. I remember me and Mitch brought Paul Cook one time. We brought him home. It was just like it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. My time there is as good as any time anywhere I've been because of the guys, and that's what it comes down to. It always comes down to the people you're with, as to if you remember how you remember the good times. And when you're at Arsenal, when I was at Palace and trying to get through, it was very intense because you're trying to achieve and get somewhere. Then you get to Arsenal and then it's all about achieving and accomplishing. And then, you get to somewhere like Burnley who are trying to get promotion. And as much as the guys have not been through what I've been through in respect of trying to get to a level and trying to get to promotion and it was brilliant to see how they took to it.
Yeah, just before I move on to the next set of questions, the game at Scunthorpe, when did you guys know that Gillingham were losing and we were essentially going up?
I think it was after the. I was quite confused with it because when Glenn scored, I think he scored a really good goal from outside the box. It was a brilliant goal.
Yeah.
I think at the end, once he scored, then we found out afterwards. I think someone said that they drew. Did they draw or did they lose?
They needed to
Wrexham.
win.
They needed something against Wrexham.
They needed to win.
Right? And they didn't. So I just remember that after in the dressing room, by the time we got to the dressing room, everybody knew, we knew what was going on. And it was brilliant. That's when it really started. And then all of a sudden they had to find champagne from somewhere.
Not easy. We had a horrendous time. As I said, we were all at Turf watching that game. They'd put a huge big screen on for us, which was unheard of in Burnley. And because it's Burnley and we love them, the feed cut out at a really critical point.
I remember that.
Upstairs and downstairs are the James.
Obviously, in them days you couldn't get your phone out and check.
Yeah.
That was just like.
So when the feed cut out, while the game was going on, or when
they had portable radios where they were trying to tune into Radio Lancashire. It was hilarious. Moving on, just I guess to modern times, just away from the nostalgia of those games. The current Burnley squad's obviously achieving things that we never thought that we would ever see at Burnley.
Yeah.
I want to pick up on the Nick Pope situation because at the moment there seems to be increasing pressure on Jordan Pickford about losing his number one. But it feels like this weekend the focus has shifted onto Dean Henderson and Nick Pope's fallen off.
I've found that this season it tends to be the conversation is Pickford or Henderson, and we're all like, hello.
Yeah. I know, and he's got the most clean sheets.
He's got more than Alisson.
The fact is that yes, and he's in there. I think the reason why they say that with Henderson is because, and you know what I mean, I'm not even going to hide it. It's because of the Manchester United effect. The fact that he could go back to Manchester United. Yeah. I feel that they do feel as well with Nick Pope and his the footballing side of it, which is something that I always find quite frustrating to people talk about a goalkeeper's footwork rather than the saves he makes.
Yeah.
But I think that what Nick Pope is doing is just getting on with it.
Yeah.
And I think that his stats will show that, you know, if his stats will show. Henderson, obviously, with what he's doing at Sheffield, he'll get more. He'll get more column inches simply because of the way Sheffield have taken this league on.
Yeah.
And he's been a big part in it. And he's a loanee from Manchester United.
Yeah.
So that's why he's somebody that, you know, when you look at Manchester United's like fan base and global and to Burnley's, you know, they're going to be able to push that narrative a lot harder. So that's all that is. But at the end of the day, Nick Pope, you know, some of the say, he will be there.
Yeah, it's really frustrating for us that the reasons for not putting Pope in number one is that it's his distribution's not as good as football, but then it's the distribution problem that's conceding all the goals in the first place. So it's like.
Yeah, but it's people. It's not even a case of that. It's just an excuse, really, isn't it? You know, you want your goalkeeper to make saves, but at the end of the day, Gareth, does want his goalkeeper to be able to play out. So it seems like it's a big thing for him.
Yeah, like we said, Burnley have got, Nick Pope's got 11 clean sheets. Obviously, another part of that is Ben Mee, Tarky, Taylor. Yeah. Tarky's been on the fringe of the England squad. The other two haven't had a look in yet. Taylor's starting to have a few questions. Do you reckon there's any chance of them three being...
I think he must have been looking at Taylor.
Yeah, because he was at Newcastle, wasn't he?
Yeah, he must be looking at Taylor simply because when you look at Ben Chilwell at the moment, he seems to be having a pretty poor season.
Yeah.
Danny Rose has obviously gone across to Newcastle on loan. It seems to be not playing as well as he could be playing. And you're looking at left backs, and there's not many around who are making a claim. And when you watch the way that Taylor's been playing recently, and obviously you have to mention Dwight as well.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? And
sure.
Dwight McNeil and the way he's playing. And they've got a nice thing going on that left side. It wouldn't surprise me if Dwight McNeil as a left-sider is somebody that will probably in some of these squads, absolutely without a shadow of a doubt.
For sure.
And so if that's the case and you notice him, then you'll have to notice Taylor as well. You just have to hope that Taylor can get in there and just give him a chance. That's what you want. It's just, you have to have a look because we haven't really got anybody at left back who's doing anything.
Yeah.
Tarky as well, he's been fantastic this season.
He always is though.
Yeah,
he's very solid. I like Tarkowski, and I like obviously Ben Mee never gets it.
No, Ben Mee,
and he's a City graduate as well as Ben Mee, so I'm quite surprised.
It's surprising.
He's never even been in the conversation as Ben.
Never ever.
Which is from his point of view, it's really quite sad. It's the same with people. Wolves say the same about Connor Cody. Lewis Dunk got. They were talking about Lewis Dunk for a while, and Lewis Dunk kind of got himself in and around it, but like he got in on the kind of quiet. I think somebody pulled out. Lewis Dunk got pulled in, and I remember seeing footage of him and Marcus Rashford taking him on doing stuff. But like, I haven't seen him as somebody who I think is good enough as well to be amongst it. I haven't seen his name talked about a lot, but it's a tough one. It's a tough one for Gareth. Tarkowski has to be in there. For me, I think that he's proven that he's a very stable centre half, and he's somebody again that you have to say, as well as Michael Keane was doing when he was at Burnley, Tarkowski was, for me, the better player, and I think he's proven that. He's proven that now, yeah.
See, I have to second that, obviously. For obvious reasons, I like Tarky. He's a good guy, but the narrative of playing football out and what is Gareth Southgate looking for. Last season, I didn't see so much of that of Tarky, but this year, definitely. I've noticed him taking a few more risks and a few more gambles with the playing it out. I've noticed Sean Dyche having a bit of a sweat on at times. But I've noticed it. He's having a go. He's running forward. He's doing what was enticed by Maguire to get that sort of move. And I've sort of noticed it more with Tarky this year. So it is good to see him.
I think that what's happening with the centre halves, they know now because they've seen what's happened with Harry Maguire and his emergence, from Hull to Leicester now, Man United, £80 million, and if you're gonna match up Harry Maguire and Tarkowski in respects of ability and what they can do, and James, he's got good pace as well.
Yeah, he has.
And so
strong in the air
strong in the air. Very strong player. So if he now then brings into his game the fact that he can come out with the ball, he can play it into midfield and play those passes, then his case is strong.
Yeah,
his case is strong.
I totally agree with that, couple of last questions just to finish off then. One of our panellists referenced the chat show that we talked about earlier on, that you were doing at the time you were at Burnley. Who would have been your best guest to have on, dead or alive? Best guest.
Who I could have had?
Yeah.
At the time, I was desperate to. We were really close to getting Eddie Murphy.
Oh wow.
We were really close. It was because we got Will Smith, we got Denzel Washington. We got.
Love Denzel.
You know what I mean? We got. It was really cool in that respect. We got Mariah Carey. We got a lot of people that once you reached out and you thought we're not going to hear anything, and we heard back from Eddie Murphy a couple of times, and then in the end, it didn't materialise. But when I leave here, I'll probably think of some other names. But he was the one that everybody, when we used to ask about who would you want to see on the show, his name was like top of the list all the time. Let me see, who would I Probably, and I remember Dennis Rodman. Remember Dennis Rodman?
Yeah.
That was a weird old vibe. That one. went out afterwards as well, and he was just like, oh, you know, he was an amazing guy to have.
That must have been a real pinch me moment, though. It must have been like, how did I end up in here?
Yeah, but like, you know, who I probably would have liked to have had Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt.
I think everyone would just like to be
Yeah.
in the room with that at some point.
You can't argue with that.
Because you know the thing with Brad Pitt, I think that he's somebody, if you reached out, he's as big a star as he is, and you know the vibe I get from him is that he'll probably, if he'll say, yeah, I'm going to do that, and the people who are around him won't be able to stop him from doing that. Because when I read up about him, and he was somebody who used to hold a sign, whether it was a sign to point people in that direction, and some LA like big producers saw him and said, you need to come and have a screen test, and that was it. You know, that's how they discovered Brad Pitt. And so he's kept that kind of normality. You know, when you see him,
for sure,
he's still a normal bloke and the kind of guy that you can have a beer with and chill with. And he's somebody that I would love to have been able to sit down on a couch with.
That's brilliant.
From the mud of Gawthorpe to Brad Pitt.
I know.
Yeah. One final question sent in via Twitter from the guys at London Longside, just a bit of fun to end it with. On a chocolate digestive, which side would you consider to be the top? Is it the biscuit or the chocolate?
No, the chocolate's the top.
Excellent.
100%.
That is the right
I
answer.
can't believe anyone would say
nobody. Why would anybody?
Why would anybody?
Why would you have a chocolate biscuit and it's a chocolate one, and you put it on the chocolate side so you can see the digestive side?
That's what I thought when they sent that question in. I think someone responded to it saying that it
How
wasn't
is this a
the
question?
chocolate.
It's just ridiculous.
There
it's
are
just,
people who think
you know,
the biscuit's
the reason why the chocolate biscuit is so desirable is because when you turn it round, you see the chocolate. It's got the nice digestive underneath it.
It is,
sure. I'm going to top that one because I can't believe that's even a question. But, fair play London Longside. But which was harder, the Gawthorpe dressing room, as you said, it was quite untidy, messy, dirty, or the jungle?
I'd probably take the Gawthorpe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jungle's tough.
Yeah.
You know, the thing with it, where you can't even compare them, is because I was having an amazing time at Gawthorpe. Amazing time. And the thing is the only reason why I talk about the actual dressing rooms and the facilities is because you've asked me about them, because they don't even come onto my radar. It's only when you think of it, you think of, oh yeah, I remember that bit and that. And like sometimes the water was pretty cold and stuff like that. So it's an eye-opener. It's what you need. It's what you made me realise. And, you know, it's really strange because it did make me realise how fortunate I've been. You know what I mean? Because this is what it's like for people at this moment who are trying to maybe climb the ladder to get where I was. So, you know, it was something that I kind of appreciated. But with the jungle, to be that hungry and that bored and that tired was really tough mentally.
Yeah,
it's a very tough environment to be in. You know, you can't even compare it. I would, you know what I mean? I'd go to Gawthorpe every single day of the week.
Especially now.
Yeah,
especially now.
Exactly.
Ian, we can't just express our appreciation so much for giving up your time. Our listeners are going to absolutely love this.
I love that. I get so much love from Burnley fans.
As you should.
You know, but the fact is that it's only through the fact that they let me know, especially people who have grown up now who were at school. They say what it meant. It was a big time for them. You don't realise, and this is why. You know, I mentioned the film Kes because, like, I could imagine if somebody came into that environment, and everybody would remember it because it's such an isolated place. Burnley, the most. What was that stat they used to have about the most fans to a
population?
Population
ratio. I used to really quite like that.
Apparently, it's still the same today.
It's still the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So everybody, and what I loved about it is that obviously we had them lot across the road with Blackburn. Nobody.
No. Whoa, don't be swearing. This is a family-friendly
Nobody
podcast.
in Burnley had any other shirt on.
You never,
still the same.
It's about a third of the population of the town goes on the turf.
Unbelievable.
It's like when we're going to Old Trafford and beating them.
Yes.
There's more people in Old Trafford than what live in Burnley.
Yeah.
You know, it's
amazing.
you know what? It was a real eye-opening time for me, being at Burnley, and it was easily one of the best times of my life. And I was there with my best mate.
Yeah.
And we ended up getting promotion.
Yeah, it is brilliant. Well, on behalf of the No Nay Never and the Turfcast podcast, Ian, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.